The following podcast is a next level production.
All right, this is from Steve in New Orleans, Louisiana. You ever been down to New Orleans there? You ever been down on the bayou? Is that what they call it, the bayou? Yeah, you been down on the bayou there, Geoff?
Oh, hell yeah. I go there at least once a year.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have a place down there?
I do. I've got a little pad down there.
Really?
You should come down sometime.
You know, I'd love to. That's a great idea. We could. What do you do down there? Go fishing?
Yeah, we go fishing and we throw beads at people. We take our clothes off, go swimming. Just you and me together.
So just like what we do here, then, basically.
Hey.
Yay! All right. This is from Steve in New Orleans. He says, "Hey, Craig," and Geoff probably. My wife makes me talk like Geoff Peterson during lovemaking. What should I do? Whoa. Talk like Geoff Peterson is what you should do. Any ideas on that, Geoff?
Oh, yeah. That's it. More. Don't stop. And scene.
CBS cares. All right, this is from Mark in La Costa in California. He says, "Dear Craig, I hope you don't mind, but I have a question just for Geoff." No, not at all. This is for you, Geoff. Do you want to just read it yourself?
How dare you? Next, you'll ask me to play a harmonica.
All right, it was a little insensitive. I'm sorry. All right. This is for you. He says, "Geoff, would you consider going to a movie with me Saturday night?"
I am so there, girlfriend.
I'm glad I could be of help. This is from Bonnie in Edinburgh, Scotland. Says, "Dear Craig, I think we met once before. It's possible. I've been to Scotland. In Edinburgh, about 1985. If you're the Craig I remember, it was a great night. Are you?" For legal reasons, no. For anecdotal reasons, sure. You ever been to Edinburgh, Geoff?
Oh, hell yeah. I got a place over there.
You got a place there? Yeah, what do you do? How often do you get to your place in Edinburgh?
Oh, once a year. You should come over.
Yeah, I should.
Yeah.
What do you do when you get to your place?
I'm laughing again. You throw beads and you go swimming. Good night, everybody. Oh, my.
All right.
Bulls.
Oh, man. All right, this is from... All right, it's from Jenny in Concord, New Hampshire, who says, "Dear Craig, I'm looking for a great summer vacation. For once, I have some bucks to spend. Any suggestions?" Well, come on, Geoff, you have places all over. Where would you suggest for a great summer vacation, if you've got a little money?
Well, come to my place in New Hampshire.
New Hampshire? Do you have a place in New Hampshire, then?
Welcome to Wilhelm, everybody, and another spotlight edition of the show. I'm your host, Ben Beck, and let me tell you, I'm so excited for my guest this time around. He's been somebody who's been on my radar to actually have as a guest on this program, and I'm so excited that it's finally happening. He's an actor and a comedian who you would know from shows like Family Guy and American Dad, as well as a number of other shows and video games. But most notably, you would know him as the voice of Geoff Peterson from The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. Please welcome my guest, Josh Robert Thompson.
Wow,
Josh.
what an intro, man. Hey, Ben, how are you, man?
Good. I kind of pride myself on my intros. I try.
It's really good. Yeah, I need you to just follow me around all day and just introduce me to people. That would be nice before I go into a room.
I'll do it. Just I'll give you a writer of things that I need, and
sure. Okay.
We'll make it happen.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
it's
well,
nothing. It's
good,
nothing.
man.
It's nothing crazy like a bowl full of green M&Ms or anything like that.
All right.
It's not the Mick Jagger writer.
Well, that's okay then. I can afford that.
Okay.
Yeah, good to be here, man. I love the title of your show. When we were emailing each other, I knew right away what it was. Why is it called? Is it about film? I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what this show is. So
that's all right. I mean, the podcast itself kind of has like two forms. So a little bit of a backstory. I had a podcast before called The Spotlight, and it was basically just celebrity interviews. And then I created another podcast, which was Wilhelm, and which it's basically me and friends or other podcasters, and sometimes even celebrity guests come on. And I pick a topic, and we each list like our top 5 for that topic.
Okay.
We've done top 5 favorite, and they're top 5 favorites. So it's all a matter of opinion. They could be absolutely horrible movies, but we could love them and they'll make our top 5.
Okay.
We've done John Cusack movies, car chases, things like that. And then it got to a point where I was like, well, most of my guests on The Spotlight are entertainment industry. They're television and movies and things like that. Why not combine the two? And that's what I did. So now all my interviews and conversations are part of Wilhelm. And to answer your question about the title, basically, the Wilhelm scream is so well known and it's in so many things. I realized I'm like, well, this is one thing that ties so many movies and shows together.
Yeah.
And then I did my research. There were no other podcasts with the title. I was like, that's it. That's perfect.
That's the first thing you got to do when you start a podcast. You got to make sure nobody else has the same title. Because then you'll see there's like 40 people that have the same title. And you go, shit. Well, we're going to start over again.
Exactly.
That guy with 5 views is going to come after me. They get crazy, those people. But yeah, Wilhelm. In fact, I was just rewatching Willow the other day in preparation for that show that I'll begrudgingly watch. But boy, that's a great film. It is indeed. And the Wilhelm is, all over that thing. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's in everything. It's in, Star Wars: A New Hope. I mean, it's everywhere. And ever since I created the podcast and used the title, I'm constantly getting messages like, hey, did you watch this movie? There's a Wilhelm scream in it. I'm like, okay.
Well, it's a good title too, because it also, it reaches people who are in the know. If you're a real film enthusiast, you know what the Wilhelm screen is. So it kind of weeds everybody else out, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that when you sent me the email back and you were like, I love the title of the podcast. I was like, all right, hopefully he's in now.
Yeah, I had to make sure. I was like, is this just some guy's name, Wilhelm? Is this is this a German? Is this a Nazi podcast? I don't know. I guess I'll do it.
Well, when you look at the logo of the podcast too, one of the things they created, it's the warning sign with a man falling.
Yes.
And I've had so many people say like, I can hear your logo.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, well, then that's perfect.
I agree to do shows. I don't know. And when I say I didn't know what the show was, that's a good thing. I like to just say, sure, let's do that show. I mean, you reached out and I think, I
was in a Facebook Live.
You were in a Facebook Live or YouTube Live or Facebook Live. Yeah. And I just appreciate when people ask. So I've done a bunch of shows in the last year. People either starting their show, just starting their podcast, or people like yourself that have been around for a while. Because it's interesting to hear everybody's perspective. And I think I'm on like 4,000 shows. So this is 4,001. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I was. One of the things I did enjoy about that Facebook Live was the fact that I did pose that question in the Facebook Live in the chat, and you did see it, and you did answer it, and you told me how to get in touch, and
of course,
and that's one of the things that already makes you one of my favorite people, is because as well as I do, the guests that I've had on this podcast, I mentioned before we started recording, I've had over 200 people on this podcast. Some I've reached out to directly, others I've gone through agencies and publicists and things like that. And publicists, like some of them are great, and a lot of them are just like either ghost you completely or like they're not interested.
Yeah. Well, that is true. I don't know. I guess it's because I come from public access or local TV background. That's how I started in all of this, just doing my own show. Well, as a kid, doing shows in my basement, and then later doing public access TV here in Los Angeles. And, local TV has been around since the beginning of television, and it's part of the history of television. And I think these kind of shows are just an extension of that. I mean, when YouTube came along, I still like a studio. I still like being in a physical space with lights and, a crew and all of that. But like what you're doing and what so many others are doing is just an extension of that. So I'm always happy to be a part of that stuff because I think it's important to keep it going.
Yeah, and like I said, I appreciate you, actually answering and willing to do this.
Sure, man. I mean, I might regret it, but we'll see.
Well, let's make sure that doesn't happen. One of the things I wanted to start with is, following you on Facebook. I want to say I know the holidays already passed. I am incredibly jealous of your Halloween setup. In particular, the old Zenith in the window playing the movies.
Well, the Zenith was a new addition this year. And so, I mean, I love Halloween. I grew up in Cleveland. We live down the street from that one guy. There's always that one guy on everybody's street who goes all out and puts everything on the lawn and scares the shit out of you. And it's the house that, you get up the courage to go to the front door, right? You've probably had that. I don't know. Where did you grow up?
I've been pretty much around the Philadelphia my entire life. I grew up in Jersey until I was maybe 17 or 18 years old, and then I moved into Pennsylvania. Yeah. So, but I've been centrally around Philadelphia for most of my life. And you're right. There's always that one neighbor that has those houses set up, and they're the one neighbor that either half the neighborhood can't wait to see what they're going to do this year, and the other half of the neighborhood is, well, you need to avoid that house while we're trick-or-treating this year.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And it's scary. It can be very scary, and it would always scare the shit out of me. And I'd always beg my mom to take me down to that house when I was very little and trick-or-treating. Of course, I would cry as soon as I got there. But as I got older, it was exciting. And it was exciting to see how the animatronics worked, the different monsters that moved, and to look at the lighting. How did they light it? And what are these fog machines? And so, I became that guy. It's actually, I've been doing it in this neighborhood here in LA for 10 years now. It's much cooler now because I have a girlfriend, so it's not as creepy. When you're by yourself, it's like, well, there's that old Josh down the street doing it by himself again. I don't know if you kids should go over there, but this year, I wanted to have an old, tube TV, an old CRT, just a classic TV set in the window. We have this bay window in the front of the house, and I've always wanted to have it just sitting there playing old black and white movie trailers or, horror films. And that's exactly what we did this year. I found, eBay, of course, is an amazing thing. And I found this Zenith 1988 faux wood paneled 26-inch, monstrosity, a Zenith color TV, which still works considering what a piece of shit Zenith was about that time. But and it's got the Zenith logo, man. I found a remote for it on eBay. Thing works fantastic. I fixed it up a little bit, put it in the window, and it looked like Frankenstein's monster, which I have a big sort of animatronic of him, is holding the TV. and you walk by and watch, what's playing. So I did that all month long, man. It was really, really fun.
It's such a brilliant idea too, because I know where I live in my neighborhood now. I live in a duplex, and where there's another duplex next to me, and we share a driveway, and
right.
That kind of a neighborhood. And I've always been the kind of person who I have like an outdoor screen, like a huge 9x12 outdoor screen and a projector for it, and like speakers from when I used to DJ. And I've always wanted to set that up in the driveway to play, for mainly family-friendly movies for when the kids are coming around in Halloween, like Hocus Pocus and things like that.
Right.
But we just never get the traffic in this area to make it worthwhile to do it.
Yeah.
And then I see on your Facebook page, you doing this. I'm like, well, that's just fucking brilliant.
Now you should do it, man, because we hardly have anybody come by here either. I mean, it's more for us. It's really more for me. It's just I just wanted to see if I could pull it off, and man, it looks so cool because I also built a Jason Voorhees this year. They had like an old prop Spirit Halloween motionless zombie with the cheap wireframe body, and I just he was fine, but I thought let's track down the Jason Voorhees hockey mask. So I found a really nice one again on eBay that was from Friday the 13th, the final chapter, had like the axe mark in it, and it was all bloodied, and it looked really good. The guy had actually painted it and redone it and did a great job. So I found that, put some padding in the shoulders, and now you got Jason Voorhees, and then you have Pinhead from Hellraiser in the other window, and then you got Frankie there with the TV. And but the people that do come by really appreciate it. In fact, a lot of the kids on the neighborhood have now, moved away. They've gone to college, but they were kids and grew up seeing this display. So that kind of stuff really means a lot to me. So I sort of extend that to my own work in any kind of art. If just like 2 or 3 people dig it, that's good enough for me,
Yeah. I don't usually do this during interviews, so I'm going to do this anyway, just because I feel like you would appreciate it. If I can get it. Yeah. So you mentioned the Jason Voorhees mask. I worked a show down in Atlanta in March where I was the programming director for a convention. And part of that was going around to all the different vendors and like asking for things that if they would be willing to give us things to give away, during panels and things like that to make it more audience interactive. One of the guys that was there actually gave me this and said, "This is not to give away. This is for you." But he gave me this.
Oh, cool. That's great, man.
I mean, it's smaller. It's not face size.
It's a little that's kid size, Jason.
Yes.
Maybe
exactly.
that's when Jason started out, even though technically Jason died in the first film, but let's not worry about that. Somehow he was back for part 2.
Yeah, this is
it really
Pamela
Jason? Yeah, maybe Pamela would Pamela Voorhees would put that on little Jason when he was a kid, and that's why he ended up that way. So really, it's unfair of her to kill all those. She shouldn't have killed all those camp counselors. It was kind of her fault. She raised him like that. It's very sad.
and I know, like this. I know they just announced, like Peacock just announced that they're going to be doing a Camp Crystal Lake television series that's going to be, I don't know how that's going to be because apparently it's supposed to be a prequel. And I tell people, I'm like, well, Freddy or Jason didn't come about until the second movie because the killer was Pamela. So is Pamela going to be the killer in the prequel? Like, how is this going to work? So I don't know.
It could be interesting. I do love these horror movies. I mean, I love the Halloween series because I love how many timelines there are, but that's kind of the fun of the whole thing is that, I think the audience, certainly the diehard fans of those series and Friday the 13th, we just kind of come to accept that, well, this is just how it is. I mean, Jason went to space and, Michael Myers has been hacked and beat up and killed so many times. At one point, he had like a mystical rune, the mark of thorn on his, I loved all that stuff, so I don't know, but I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that. Because they did that with Psycho, didn't they? They did that really good prequel series about Norman Bates and his mother, so I don't know, but how are they going to handle Friday the 13th? Because let's be honest. I mean, Jason was, I don't know that can they depict somebody like that is, I don't know. Jason kind of was mutated and had, it was almost like they were making fun of him because he had certain developmental issues. You know how people are now. So they're going to go, well, it's not his fault that he's murdering people. I don't know. I'm going to be very curious to see how they handle it.
It'll be interesting to see how the PC police come out in regards to some of the things that they do.
Yeah, just go for it. Well, we'll see. Peacock, man.
And I'm a fan of those movies too. I mean, some of those movies are absolutely horrendous, but they have some of my favorite scenes, even though the movies are bad. Like Jason Takes Manhattan is. I mean, there are two scenes in that movie. That movie is obviously not great, but there are two scenes in that movie. The scene where he just lifts the mask to show the guys that are ready to jump him, and they just run away.
That's great.
And then the other scene where like the dude's boxing him on the roof, and the guy gives him one shot, and he just pops his
knocks his head right off. I remember seeing that with my buddy. A couple of friends, we piled in the back of somebody's dad's truck. That movie came out in was that 89? I think Jason Takes Manhattan, 88 or 89, and I was in junior high, so we couldn't drive. So we drove down there, dropped us off at the local mall in Parma, Ohio, suburb of Cleveland, and we went to the General Cinemas Theater, and we saw that movie, and we were just elated. It's a very boring film until they get to Manhattan. I mean, there's nothing happening. They're like on a boat for most of that movie, which makes no sense. But anyway, the punching off of the head scene elicited cheers in the theater. It's very exciting.
I'm sure it did. It's really one of my favorite scenes from a bad movie.
It's brilliant.
We talked a little bit about this before we started recording, and anybody who's just listening to the audio version of this, I urge you to check out the video on YouTube so you can see this. But you have a massive Blu-ray collection behind you that I think you said is mostly horror.
Yeah, mostly horror. Horror movies and science fiction. A lot of science fiction stuff in there. A lot of it is from there's so many great companies now that restore and put out all of these. A lot of these films that we thought were lost forever. A lot of them are Italian slasher or cannibal or zombie movies that were supposedly banned. They're all back there. They're all sitting back there. Companies like Severin Films and Shout Factory or Scream Factory.
Yeah. But
Severin, man, they're putting out some incredible box sets of folk horror films. And I've got a box set called Nasty Habits, which are the nunsploitation movies, which are all about nuns that are either possessed by Satan and get into all kinds of fun stuff. So that stuff's amazing. And it's really nice that there's companies preserving these things. And I'm one of the sickos that, buys that stuff. So,
hey, I mean, somebody out there, I mean, as long as somebody will buy it, they're always going to keep doing it. And I find that great. I mean, I know one of the films that recently was just restored and released when and it was a movie I had never even heard of, was when they did The Carnival from, not Carpenter. Why can't I think? Man, Night of the Living Dead. From
George Romero.
George Romero. I don't know why the name was blanking on me. Yeah. Well, no, there was creepy. Was it a documentary? I think there was a film with like a fake.
Yeah. About the elderly. It was about the elderly.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Brilliant.
And that was one that when that came out, I was like, okay, well, I need to see this. And
it's one of those things they just find. And, I think a lot of times they just sit on this stuff for a long time and go, hey, we just found this. And, but it's exciting for fans like us, things like that come out. I mean, the Friday the 13th, we're talking about Friday the 13th, the Friday the 13th box set that Shout Factory put out is unbelievable. Gorgeous artwork, has every single Friday the 13th movie. Even the remake, it's got them all. And 3D, and Friday the 13th Part 3 3D is in proper 3D now. You don't have to wear the paper, the anaglyph,
nice.
Red and blue. And it still looks as terrible as it did back then, but but less terrible. So
yeah, I'm a completionist when it comes to that too. Like most of the movies that I own are digital now, not Blu-ray. I did have a massive DVD collection at one time, and I kind of had to pare it down, and I went digital with most of my stuff now. But I'm a completionist in that if I own like 5 of the movies in the set, it doesn't matter how many more come after that. I kind of have to have them.
It is a problem.
The Hellraiser series is like that. Oh
wow, you got them all.
I have them all.
Wow.
All the Tremors movies, Child's Play, is like all like. If I have one, I have to have them all.
Well, yeah, Child's Play is great too. Those are all consistently great. I think Chucky is one of the few horror characters that has evolved in a really interesting and natural way that just makes sense for the character. The new series is fantastic, and
I haven't seen it yet. I want
it's
to.
Really good. Yeah, it's very clever and inventive, and it tackles modern issues without being preachy. I think that's one of the problems I have with a lot of films now is they wear their message, on their sleeve. And it's like, yeah, you can just tell a story without, having to, beat everybody over the head with things. And that's what I like about the Chucky series in particular. It's really well done. Don Mancini's great. I think he's written all of them. And that's also unusual too, to have the same person being the creative force behind every single one of those things. I think Phantasm is like that too. Don Coscarelli's Phantasm series, which is so good. The very last one was so emotionally moving, surprisingly, and they got most of the cast back for that. So that's another example. Anyway, I could go on all day, and I will, and I might. We're going to be here for 6 hours, folks.
Well, I mean, and that's the beautiful thing about this too, is that I'm kind of hoping that maybe our conversation will lead you to maybe potentially coming back to do one of the top 5 episodes.
I'd love it. Yeah.
Of a horror series or something like that, where we talk about a horror topic and we pick a top 5. So I would love that.
I think so. I'm very passionate about it. I mean, like I love Rob Zombie. I love his aesthetic as a creative person. I love that he's a musician, and then he's also a painter, and then he's also a really great filmmaker. And my girlfriend and I were just watching all the Halloween movies, as we do every year around Halloween. And we got to Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And, I really love that film. I know it was very controversial when it came out. It should have done way better. It's a far more interesting film than people gave it credit for. It is fully his own vision, but God, it's one of the more original. It is one of the more original Halloween films since the first one in Halloween 3. I got to give him that. It's very interesting.
Halloween 3 is another one too. Like Season of the Witch is one of those ones that's very hit or miss with people. I know people that absolutely love that movie, and I know people that are on the opposite side of the fence and just think like, why did they even do this? And
it's brilliant.
Well, we share a difference of opinion on that one. So Halloween.
Well, 2, I think they shouldn't have called it Halloween 3. They shouldn't have called it Halloween 3, but anyway.
I mean, I do get the whole backstory behind it, is that Carpenter initially wanted it to be an anthology, so they get away from Michael Myers, and then they went back to it. I get the backstory behind it, and I appreciate it. I just was not a fan of that movie. And Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, it's been so long since I've seen it, I really can't make any judgment calls.
It's amazing, man.
All I can say is that Halloween Ends, the latest one, that was a movie, and I'll leave it at that.
I try to find the good in everything. Yeah, I wasn't a fan either. I really appreciated what they were doing with Halloween Ends. I really did. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I wish you had sort of told everybody that. It was an interesting premise, and it was an interesting way to go. A really terrible opening sequence, which anyway, I get it, and it's great. And I mean, it's a great idea, but really sad to see an old and withered Michael Myers hobbling around underneath the city. They literally physically have evil just below the surface of the city. Anyway, Halloween Ends. Check it out on Peacock, everybody.
There we go. Check it out. Exactly. It's on Peacock. Let's switch gears, because you're right. Sure. I can talk horror movies with you pretty much all day, and I'll have you back on, and we'll absolutely do that, and we'll dive.
Okay, got it.
A little deeper into that stuff. I want to get the late show stuff out of the way, because I know I'm a fan of it. I know other people are going to tune in because they're a fan of it too.
Yeah, of course.
10 years on the Late Show with Craig Ferguson as just the voice of Geoff Peterson. How did that come about? I mean, how did you get started with the Late Show? How did the idea of Geoff come along? Like, how did all of that get started?
Well, we go back to public access. I was doing, I was just doing one of my public access shows. By then, we started in Chino, California, which was right near the men's prison. out in the middle of nowhere. This was very much like Wayne's World, or a better example would be UHF, Weird Al's classic film UHF, where the idea of a small town TV station in the middle of nowhere is a very romantic notion to me. I love that concept. And that's what the studio was in Chino, California. And I was doing my own late night monster movie show, Schlock Theater, and I was doing my own variety show, aptly titled The Josh Thompson Show. And I was also doing a show where I played this preacher character, the Reverend Apostle BG, and it was the Holiness Half Hour of Power. And I would just take phone calls in the middle of the afternoon on Saturdays and say the worst shit to people and misquote the Bible. And I'd had a cigarette and a bald skull cap, and people would call in and get really worked up, and it was really fun. And I loved doing that show, and I still love doing that character. And one of the people watching was a writer, Joe Struzzulo, one of the writers from The Late Late Show. And I think at that time I'd also been started doing the Howard Stern Show, calling in as Arnold Schwarzenegger and doing all those calls, those famous phone calls with George Takei. So there was that stuff had sort of been happening, but I was just sort of dicking around at this public access studio and working for the cable company. And then I got this phone call. And anyway, Joe was like, hey, do you want to maybe do a sketch voice only as Arnold Schwarzenegger? And I said, sure. So this would have been, I would think, February of 2007. So that's when I started doing the Late Late Show. So actually, I was on the show.
Not quite 10 years.
Not quite 10 years, right? But I was on the show. There was no Geoff, and I was just a bit player. I just, came on every couple of months, and I'd play, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Craig, how are you? And they started putting me on camera, and they started putting me in a muscle suit and a 2-hour makeup job with these appliances they'd put on to kind of make me look like Arnold, and had a cigar. And then suddenly I was sitting at a desk in front of a green screen. And now Arnold's, at that point was the governor of California. And so Craig would check in, let's see what the governor of California has to say. Hey, Governor Howard, hey, Craig, how are you? So we did a bunch of those sketches. And sometimes I'd come on and do a sketch with him where Craig would play Larry King and I would play Arnold. And then I started coming on as Robert De Niro. Then I would do the voice of Morgan Freeman. And suddenly I think it was like, after a couple of years, I think people started, especially Craig, we started to build a rapport as performers, as like-minded, comedians or performers. And so I think that's what helped sort of solidify my place as Geoff Peterson. But Geoff didn't come around until 2010. And again, I was not contracted with the show at that time. I just came in every now and again and did these sketches. I didn't know when it was going to happen again. I didn't even know if I would ever be asked back to the show. Maybe it was something that they got bored with and they moved on and did other things. Because at that time, Craig was doing a lot of sketches. They were doing a lot of on-camera sketches. And then one day he made a joke about a robot skeleton army and thought it would be funny if, like other talk shows, he had a sidekick, except the sidekick was a robot and he could program it to say all of the ass-kissing things that sidekicks would say. And so the late Grant Imahara from Mythbusters, who was a roboticist and inventor and a lovely guy, he built Geoff Peterson. I think it was a bet that they had. Like, if you give me, I think Grant was like, Craig, if you get me a certain number of followers, I will build that robot for you. And that's what happened. So my whole career is based on a bet. Thanks. No, but so he built Geoff and he built him beautifully. And Craig did the voice for the first couple of weeks, all pre-recorded. And it sounded like this: "You're the man, Craig. Ha, ha, ha. Good one." And that was it. And Craig had a little box with some buttons on it. Each button had a phrase labeled on it. And he would just press it underneath the desk and it would make Geoff move. And that was it, And I didn't know anything about it. I wasn't a part of it until the day that Craig said, "Hey man, you want to try giving the voice a shot, man? Just think about it over the weekend, see if you come up with anything." And I was like, okay. And the writer at that time, Tom Straw, who is a fantastic novelist, by the way, he's gone on to write a bunch of amazing crime novels. Tom Straw was one of the writers of The Late Late Show. And he said to me, I'm thinking it's more of like George Takei, so we want it to be like that. Oh my. And I remember I was like, well, I don't know, because George Takei is already George Takei, and like he's on the Howard Stern show now, and I have that connection to the Howard Stern show. So I think we could do something different, but Tom was adamant that it would sound like George Takei. So that is how it started. So Tom would write all those phrases. I would go in every couple of weeks and just record a batch of phrases like balls and in your pants and sex party. Sex party was one that was one of my favorites, but nobody ever quotes that one. And then they would take all those phrases, and each phrase would then be associated with a pre-programmed series of movements. And Tom Straw would stand behind the audience wall, and with an iPad, now it was an iPad, he would just press a corresponding button that had a phrase on it and a movement. And that's, so I wasn't there for the first year of Geoff, but my voice was there. And so that's how that happened, So I'm saying all of this, I'm telling you this whole story just because it wasn't like an overnight thing. There wasn't a casting call. I was there for quite a while doing stuff on that show. And again, nobody thought that Geoff Peterson would last. Craig, like many performers, would get bored very quickly of any new thing. Sketches, a sound machine, got bored with it. So I just assumed, well, that was fun, until he asked me to do the voice. And then a year after that, we were in Vegas shooting a sketch, which was a parody of The Hangover. And it was Geoff Peterson and Craig wake up. Geoff is wearing, he's got a veil on, like he's a bride. He's dressed like a bride, and Craig is, go, what happened, man? What did we do last night? And so we recount what we did that night, and it's all these adventures that we go on. And during that sketch was the first time I was able to puppeteer or operate Geoff with the remote control unit, and that's when I started improvising. Craig sitting in a 57 Chevy, a cherry red 57 Chevy, which was on a camera truck, and we were driving down Las Vegas Boulevard. I'm lying down in the back seat of this 57 Chevy, lying in such a way so you can't see me. I have to be hidden, and I have this remote and an earpiece with a little microphone. So I'm improvising as Geoff. Geoff looks like he's driving the car. And then sitting on top of me was this guy named Brad Lace, who was a little person. He's dressed like a leprechaun. So I got a guy sitting on top of me. I'm covered with, and I'm like, this is going to be the future of my career. And in between takes, I just started busting Craig's balls. I just started like fucking with him as Geoff. So I would make Geoff's head turn and look at Craig and say, oh, the big actor. Oh, the big late night talk show host wants to go home. What do you need, a nap? Oh, you need a nap. You can sleep on your money. And, the crew was like, holy shit, what is he doing? Why is he, oh my God, he's going to get killed. And Craig, of course, starts laughing. He's crying, laughing, he's like, oh, that's great, man. That's great. So he says, I'd been trying to do it live in the studio for a year. I had been trying for a year to convince the producers, hey, why don't we try it out once in a while? Why don't I come in sometime? Mm-hmm. Give Tom Straw a break and let me operate Geoff. Oh, no. That's sweet. We have it controlled right now. You come in, you say the lines we write, and then we'll just keep it like that. And I get it, because it's like, it's Craig's show. We don't know what you're capable of or what you might fuck up if you go off script. They didn't know. You're just a guy that comes in, you put the makeup on, you play Arnold, you play De Niro, you read the script, you go home. You're funny, but we don't know about that, Mm-hmm. And sure enough, when we went to Vegas, that's the first thing Craig said to me after I made it. He's like, what we should do? We should have you come in and do it live, man. I was like, oh, what's a great idea, Craig. Wow, I wish I'd have thought of it. I did a year ago. And so that is how it started. And once I went in the studio and did it live, and you can see the moment, I think it's when we did the I've Got a Place There sketch. It's one of those.
Okay. I was going to bring that up. Was that, so that was one of the first times you were ever live in studio doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we would do it every Thursday. It was like every Friday, Geoff is live. So at that point we were only doing it once a week just to see. The producers are like, we still don't know. We don't know who you are really, which I completely understand. Giving some other guy airtime, with the co-host, with the host, that's a gamble. And but to Craig's credit, he let me kind of riff. The only thing he ever said to me before we did any of this was, so let's just, we'll take it slow and just wait until I talk to you, because maybe, who knows? He didn't know who he was working with, really. I mean, we did sketches, but I might have interrupted. I might have started talking over him during the monologue, or in the middle of an interview, which I only did once, and never again. Craig shot me a look. Well, he shot Geoff a look that basically said, don't ever do that again. And I was like, okay, got it. It wasn't like a huge deal, but I just was like, noted, no problem. And that was it, man. That's how, and I think the third or fourth big moment was, or the solidifying moment was the I've got a place there sketch. I think that was the moment. Right after that sketch, I think Craig walked by my dressing room and he was like, out fucking standing, man. That's it. We're going to fucking do this every fucking night. I think what that did was actually make the transition then from Geoff just being there all the time. So then it was like, oh, fuck it. We're going to have Geoff here all the time. And then after that, we could never go back. The show, like Geoff and Craig, as that dynamic was inseparable. You could never see the show again any other way, So
yeah, I was very late, no pun intended, to the Late Show. I didn't discover it until maybe 3 or 4 years before it finally, before Craig left and Corden took over. And I was really disappointed because the moment I discovered it, I was in. Like, I was either watching it live every night or I was TiVoing it at the time to watch it the next day. And I remember seeing that, oh, I've got a place there sketch when that aired. And I still go back and rewatch that whole thing on YouTube every once in a while because it's still funny now.
Yeah, it's all unplanned. There's that's the other thing you should know is we didn't script. The sketches were scripted, when I was on camera, but we didn't plan anything out. I mean, there was the monologue, but we regularly ignored that, or Craig regularly ignored the monologue to turn to Geoff and say, what do you think about that, Geoff? Or what were you doing this weekend, man? And at first it was like, oh shit, I got to come up with something. And after a while, it just became second nature. It was just like two buddies hanging out. One of them just happened to be, a robot skeleton. So,
yeah. And I know, we mentioned, obviously, and very obviously from this conversation, you're a comedian. And I remember going to see Craig live. I think this was 2012 in Easton, PA. He played at State Theater. Yeah. And I remember being there with a friend of mine and a couple other people that we knew, and you came out to open for him. And I was so excited by that because this is the world of the Late Show, but now in the building with me.
Yeah.
And, I don't remember. I mean, this was going on 10 plus years ago, so I don't remember any of the material that you had. But I remember people asking me a couple days afterwards, how was the show? I was like, oh, Craig was great, but the guy that does the voice of Geoff, he opened for him and he was fantastic. And so I've seen you do stand up before, and it was great.
That was fun, man. So he and I toured together for a couple years, maybe 2.5 years or so, and I mean, I hadn't really done much stand-up up to that point. I had a lot of experience doing public access TV, and I didn't really train in improv. I just sort of learned it myself, and then doing the Late Show was kind of this other training ground where it was just get in there and do it. And of course, I'd done all those characters before we got to Geoff on the Late Show. So Craig asked me, sitting in his office one day, and he's like, hey, man, do you do stand up, right? And I was like, sure. Yeah, sure. So you want to go on the road with us, man? Yeah. And it's our fifth stop on that tour was Radio City Music Hall.
Oh boy.
So that's 6,000 plus people. Which I don't really have I love being in front of an audience, but that was wild, man. I mean, even my mom, some of my relatives flew out for that show. And that was an amazing night. Because that crowd, like you said, it was like they were seeing the Late Late Show live. You know, I always felt that I always felt CBS dropped the ball in every possible way with the marketing of that show. And, you know, there were so many, you know, merchandising opportunities and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like a road show with the Late Late Show and like Jeff and I mean, at one point we did have the guys come, and Joseph and Ryan, they were Secretariat the Horse. And so we had Secretariat show up at some of these big shows, especially I think we did Town Hall in New York. And that was amazing. That was like three shows we did there. But so I like that. I always wish we had done something like that, but I think people felt that energy, you know, when we were together. And then we would do Q&A afterwards sometimes with the audience.
The show was such a different entity, and it's one of the reasons why I think it's still missed today. I mean, there's a number of people that I'll say, like, every once in a while I'll just post on Facebook like, man, I miss the Late Late Show.
Yeah.
And so many people are like, yeah, I do too. And another person who, I think I mentioned this in our email correspondence back and forth, Dana DiLorenzo has been on this podcast 3 times already.
Wow.
And she's a riot. And her and I have talked about her time as Beth, you know, the CBS exec, and like it became so much more than just a late night talk show. It became kind of like a variety act, and just all these different things that made it its own thing. And once it was gone, nothing has really filled that hole since it left.
Yeah, it's nice of you to say, and a lot of people share that sentiment. And I've even heard from people that, you know, like at the height of the lockdowns and the pandemic and all that, people started finding the Late Late Show on YouTube. People that had never heard of the show, you know, people from around the world started finding the show. And so even now there are, you know, new people always finding it and messaging me, and, you know, and I've come to see how important it was to people. I mean, the Late Late Show, like anything that people gravitate toward that brings them comfort, it got them through dark periods in their life, and it means a lot to them. I still have people that email me and message me and comment, and it means a lot. It's like, wow, if you're even able to, you know, be a part of something like that, or be a part of creating a character that people remember, that's it. I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, it's really incredible, man.
Kind of changing gears again. You know, we talked about how I got in contact with you through a Facebook Live. You just did a recent Facebook Live the other day, and you brought something up that I kind of wanted to bring up, not because of any kind of like disagreement or to make anything different. It's just something that you said that I kind of want to ask you about, and that is you kind of made mention that, I don't want to use the word hate because you didn't use it, but you're kind of, there's a stigma to when people call you an impressionist.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you're very good, obviously, at impressions. You've done a number of them, and this is the first time I've ever heard your Craig Ferguson impression, which is fantastic.
Yeah, thanks.
But maybe, I mean, can you elaborate on that a little bit more? Because even when I did the intro, when we had initially planned on this, I was going to intro you as an impressionist, and then you said that on a Facebook Live. I'm like, well, scratch that. That's not going to be
Yeah. Well, it's fine. I mean, I think I get it. I mean, that's if you have been familiar with my work up until this point, that makes sense that you would go, oh, that's the guy that does the voices. But I know that I do a lot of other things, and I think that a lot of the fan base or the followers don't necessarily know that. There are people that do. It's one of those things where, you know, you're a band that has a favorite song and everybody only wants you to play that song. But I've come to understand that, and everybody has to figure this out for themselves, right? So I finally figured out, like, oh no, it's a good thing. It's a compliment. It means that people love you and love what you do. And that one thing that you did, as we were speaking about moments ago, brings them comfort. It's a joyful memory. Like the Late Late Show and Geoff Peterson is a good memory for people. I have good memories of being on that show. There were also a lot of things that I experienced on that show that weren't so fun. And so, of course, I have a different perspective because I was the guy behind the wall playing that character, right? So, but when it comes to impressions, like, there are so many other people who are so good at impression. Like that is their life. I guess what I'm saying is it's not my life. One day I woke up and I went, okay, so this isn't my life. Like I don't want to have a Vegas show where it's like Josh Robert Thompson, man of a billion voices. Like I'm never going to do that because I don't want, if I did, I would have done it by now. I mean, honestly, if I really wanted to do these things, it would be happening already. That's what people go, how come you're not, go, well, it's because I don't want to. It's not that I'm not good at it. I think I love doing Family Guy. I love being on, Inside Job. I love doing shows for Disney and Netflix. All the relationships I have with those people are wonderful. And like Family Guy is one of my favorite shows. I've been doing that for my 13th season now. Because they're always just like, hey, do you want to do Tom Selleck? Sure. It's a funny bit. They let you're kind of free to create what you want. They know I can do it. I love that. Kelly Clarkson show, another show that I enjoy doing. Just did it yesterday. And I play the voice of God. And Kelly Clarkson, of course, famously the first winner of American Idol, is a great talk show host. They just got renewed for 2 more seasons. It's on NBC. It's a daytime show. I've been doing the voice of God, who sounds a lot like Morgan Freeman, during these game show segments. And yesterday we had Octavia Spencer, Will Ferrell, and Ryan Reynolds as the contestants during the game. So there I am, hidden away, doing the voice of God. Hello, everybody. And hosting from high above this game show. And then afterward, there I am talking to those 3. There's Octavia Spencer, one of the great actresses of our time, telling me how amazing that voice was. And Ryan Reynolds saying, man, that voice is good. And so here's my point. Part of me is like, this is so great that they're saying that, but the other part of me wants to go, yeah, but right. But I also do these other things. If I could just talk to you for a few more minutes before you get whisked away to do your makeup touch-ups, but it's okay because it's a way in. So now they know, like Ryan Reynolds, who knows? He might find out who my, agencies are, my agents or my managers are. And he might say, hey, let's use that Morgan Freeman guy for one of my Mint Mobile commercials or something. Ryan, if you're listening or watching, I'm right here. Well, that's great because then that leads to something else. My only point was I'm not just an impressionist. I think I'm a reluctant impressionist. I'm an actor and a writer and a filmmaker who happens to also do impressions. Or I'm a host as well. That's the thing. Like spending all that time behind the wall was great because I learned what to do on a talk show, what not to do on a talk show. I watched it all unfold. But in my heart of hearts, I wanted to be out from behind the wall. I didn't want to stay back there anymore. I wanted to come out, and be out there. It was like, yeah, but if I could just, but I totally get it. The premise of the show was the robot is a pre-programmed sidekick. And I think it would have been difficult for the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. It is Craig Ferguson's show to have to share camera time with somebody else. I think it made it easier that it was like this inanimate sort of object, So anyway, so that's all I meant. I just meant like when I'm really honest about what it is I want to do, impressions is not in the top 5, but it's okay, but I enjoy it.
It's kind of okay, like you mentioned. It's okay to use it to open the door, but once you're in the room, you don't want that to be the only topic of conversation.
Yeah, because I love impressions. I respect impressionists, but there is a stigma about it, at least to me, to a lot of people that I know in the business. It's like, oh, he's an impressionist. Oh, that's nice. The irony is you spend your whole life being other people, but you never get to be yourself. And I think the turning point for me was I went on a podcast called The Honeydew with Ryan Sickler. Ryan Sickler's a great comic and a friend. And that interview, a couple of years ago now, but that interview was like so funny and emotional and painful. And it was everything. And it's exactly who I am. It was like being a storyteller, peppering in voices, but not having that be the main thing, and that's why as a stand-up, whenever I'd get really nervous in stand-up, default is Morgan Freeman. And the only problem with my stand-up was I would start out with Morgan Freeman. And the problem with that is I would start out strong with this navigation bit. It's a very, kind of a silly, hacky bit, but it's a funny bit, Morgan Freeman GPS. What if Morgan Freeman was a GPS? It's very funny. But then after that, the audience was like, oh, well,
you're not doing the voices anymore.
Like what's the
Yeah.
Because you should end with that. So I think it's just about becoming comfortable with who you are. It's just stuff you learn over the years as a performer. You just become more confident.
Yeah. And I didn't, by bringing that up, I didn't want it to seem like I was making you seem like you're against impressionists.
Not at all.
Like
no,
that. I just kind
not
of,
at all.
I was just very interested to hear your stance on that.
No, I love talking about it.
And I kind of did have an idea that's probably what you meant by that.
Yeah, of course.
That you didn't want to get pigeonholed into that being the only thing that you can do, or you didn't want to become typecast as just an impressionist because people start thinking that's all you can do. Because I've mentioned, I've seen you do stand up. I've seen you. I know going back to the Late Late Show towards the end, Craig would every once in a while, Craig would start the show by bringing like an audience member out and doing like a improv interview. And I remember towards the end, he brought you out as one of the people to start the show. And at that point, I was so familiar with you as Josh because I did look you up and because I am interested in things like that, that the moment I saw you, I knew who you were before Craig mentioned you're the voice, before you mentioned.
Well, that's nice. I mean, that's nice to hear. It's nice. You're one of the few that did, and that, and I think that was what happened after the show ended, where, and I've talked about this before, definitely on that Honeydew interview, but it's like, I had this idea that it's like, I was behind the wall making all this stuff up. I was behind the wall, coming up with the material for this robot and also puppeteering the robot and also doing the voice of this talking rhino and also the voice of the band. Like, also I'm the voice of the band. Also, I'm all the phone calls. Also, I'm this. Also, I'm that. The world must certainly know. I mean, the doors are going to open. Hollywood is going to roll out the red carpet. They're going to go, look at this guy, this one-man band. And that just didn't, it was like, oh, what the fuck? Holy shit. Wait a minute. What? And suddenly it felt like nobody was there. Everyone was just like, oh, well, this is the end of the show. And I was like, oh, shit. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. And then it was like, nobody knew it was me. I mean, there was one time I remember, like 2017, I went to Craig. Craig had like a Christmas party, and Grant Imahara was there, and we all took a picture with Geoff Peterson, which Craig has the main studio version of Geoff. There were two Geoffs. The other one was for when we go on the road and like shoot in Scotland or Paris, and I don't know where that one is, but everyone was like, oh my God, it's Craig. Oh my God, it's Geoff. Oh my God, it's Grant. Oh my God, it's Craig. Oh my God, it's Geoff. It's Grant. It was like, I don't know, who's that other guy? And I'm like, oh no, that's me. And I don't feel like that anymore, but that was what really for years was like, it's me. I'm the, oh yeah, I know people weren't doing that, but it did feel collectively like, yeah, we don't want to, and it is that thing, it's like, well, we don't want to know.
I get that. It kind of almost feels like when they took the set apart after the show ended, you kind of got disassembled and put away with the set.
Yeah. It was weird. But again, to the point we were talking about, so it doesn't define me though. Like that was a thing I did, and I'm very proud of it. Like, it's the most unusual job description ever. Oh, I played a talking robot skeleton sidekick on a late night talk show. You what now? But I mean, that is like something that will be treasured by so many people forever. And that's it, So again, it's kind of the Leonard Nimoy Spock thing, but not really. People have compared it to that. And I'm like, well, no, but Leonard Nimoy was on camera and everybody knew that Leonard Nimoy was playing Spock. There is a difference there. It would be like if Spock was a puppet and nobody knew who Leonard Nimoy was, So anyway, again, this is years ago. And I only bring it up to say that I've, made my peace with it. And you can have both. You can be like, yeah, I do all these impressions. I was Geoff Peterson, but I also do these other things, It's just, people don't know it yet. And that's okay. I'm just going to keep working on it because I love it. I love doing this other stuff.
Yeah. Josh, honestly, like I could sit and like, I'm definitely going to have you back on because I mean, there's so much more that we can talk about. And I know I try and keep these things like a time limit. I know we're probably about an hour now, but I can't, hopefully you still have a couple more minutes. Cause
of course,
one or two more things. I want to bring up Upgrade Soul.
Yeah.
Because, we're talking about all your past projects, with, Geoff Peterson and Family Guy and everything, but Upgrade Soul is the podcast series that's coming out on Audible.
Right.
That's the next thing on the horizon for you.
Thanks for reminding me. I didn't realize that was coming out. Is that, now have you read the graphic novel?
I have not. But I did look into the podcast itself. I mean, and in addition to yourself, I mean, David Dastmalchian, Wendell Price, Phil LaMarr, who is another highly respected voice actor.
He's great,
Marcia Gay Harden. There's some heavy hitters in this podcast.
Yeah, well, I've done a series for Audible. I've done a bunch of these now through a company called Treefort Media, and they're cranking these out, and they're amazing. We did a Sherlock Holmes.
You have my attention on that one.
Sherlock Holmes mystery, which flips the story around. And Moriarty is actually the hero of that story, or so it would seem. They're actually, Sherlock is the villain, and his nemesis is actually the good guy. And that one has Phil LaMarr, and Dominic Monaghan is in that. Phil LaMarr plays Sherlock, and I play Lestrade, and a number of other characters in that. And that's been really, really fun for me. I've done one on the Cotton Club Murders, or the Cotton Club Murder, which was the film that Francis Ford Coppola made. It's the whole story of that. Christian, what's his name? Can't think right now. Anyway, Christian Slater. Christian Slater is in that. I'm in that. I play Francis Ford Coppola. And then I did another one called Fish Priest. Stars Ethan Hawke. And again, they call on me as one of their kind of guys that can come in and do a bunch of voices, so I have a great time doing that stuff. So those are some of the things that people may not know about. I'm gonna actually plug this in before I die. Go ahead, keep talking, just vamp.
But I mean, Upgrade Soul is one that I'm looking forward to, and I'm really interested. I didn't know about this Sherlock Holmes one, and I love Sherlock Holmes. Like Sherlock Holmes and King Arthur are like two of my favorite stories or worlds to re-enter. So I'm gonna have to get the information on that Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes is called it's called the Devil's Game. I think it's the Devil's Game or Devil's Game. But they went with that to Comic-Con. They had a big panel, and there were billboards everywhere. And I guess I haven't heard it yet. I just record these things. In fact, I just did an audio book, which will be out December 6th. If it's past December 6th, hey, it's available now. And it's the story of Chuck Yeager, World War II fighter pilot, by author Don Keith. And so I narrate that audio book. And it's nice because I do it all from home. Everything I do now, Family Guy, everything. I mean, it came out of necessity because of the pandemic. I started out with PVC pipe frame and some moving blankets, and now I have a proper booth over here from a company called Whisper Room, and it's fantastic, man. I just go in there, patch in to whatever studio, and just kind of do my thing. So that's kind of been an amazing thing, truly.
Yeah, it's amazing how stuff like that came about. I mean, you'd never know it by looking at my video but I'm literally on the opposite side of my living room.
Oh, nice.
If I were to show you literally behind the curtain, it is my living room. And you're right. All of that came out of necessity. I have a little voiceover set up over here to my left. That's nothing more than just the shield around the microphone, because that's all I can really do, but it works.
And that's the thing. You don't need all this. You don't really need, I need this booth because there are certain technical requirements that these shows have, especially with an audiobook. There's a lot of leaf blowers and dogs and helicopters over here. So you can't, you can't have that, and you don't want to keep stopping down. But if you're doing other kinds of work and it's short pieces or auditions, and if there's anybody out there that's trying to get into this and they think like, oh, I don't have the equipment, I don't have the money, that's all BS now. I mean, you can find really good equipment for next to nothing now and have it sound pretty great. So in that sense, we live in a pretty amazing time. But this, I love it because voiceover, of course, I enjoy it. I enjoy working with all the people that I've worked with over the years. It's not like I'm saying F you to all that stuff. To me, it's a way to make the money to afford the time to then do the things that I want to do. And and as my friend Mark Summers said of Double Dare fame, it sure beats working for a living. So there you go.
Mark's another one that's been on my radar to have on the podcast eventually too.
He would do it, man. Mark's a great guy. Mark actually reached out. Mark reached out to me. Here's another example of how impressions open doorways. Mark reached out to me several months ago, if via email, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Mark Summers. You may know me from Double Dare." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I know who you are, man. You don't have to, but maybe it's a different Mark Summers." And then he said, "I just went on vacation with some friends. I'd love it if you could narrate this home video that we did as Morgan Freeman. What would your rate be for that?" And I'm like, "Dude, for you, Mark Summers, there's no rate." And so, then I'm talking. Next thing I know, I'm on the phone with Mark Summers, and we have like an hour-long conversation about, old showbiz and who his mentors were. We're talking about Merv Griffin. We're talking about all these things that I love. And he's like, "How old are you again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like 85 inside. In here, I'm like an 85-year-old guy." And so we became friends. And the next thing I know, he has me on his show that is about to come out, and as a guest. And then start talking about hosting. And I say, "Look, man, I really don't want to be behind the wall anymore, And he's like, "Well, let me help you out with that." So you see, so from the Morgan Freeman thing came the guest spot, and then all these other things. So you just never know. So that's kind of the way I look at it. It's a doorway to other things,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you can't disparage it. You can't disparage it because it is a great trick. I mean, it's not like I'm terrible at it, right? It's like, obviously I know how to do it, but again, I'm a reluctant impressionist. I'm like the Hulk I'm like Dr. Banner of impressions. Like he's always angry. I can always do the voice. I just choose not to,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that I know. This is one of the reasons why I did want to have you on this podcast, is to talk about all this, because yes, many people know you as Geoff Peterson, the robot, and there's probably a majority of people that don't know the person behind the voice. And as somebody who has known who you are for a while, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, was to kind
this is great.
To talk about this.
Which, by the way, I think is totally normal. I think it's like people like us, we, and this, again, this is not to put down anybody else, but it's like people like us, we take more of an interest in these things. Mm-hmm. We're curious about who the people are behind our favorite movies, or graphic novels, or whatever. We want to know more information. Some people don't, some people just like the mysteries. When it comes to the Muppets, I know all the Muppet performers. I know all their names. I remember knowing all their names when I was a kid, but there weren't a lot of kids that were going to the library to check out books about the making of the Muppet Show. I was one of those kids. So I totally get it. It's like, can most people name who performs Pepe the Prawn? Probably not. Like, if that guy, Bill Beretta, was like, "Hey, I'm going to make my own pilot. It's the Bill Beretta Show," people might go, "I don't really know." He was Pepe the... Yeah, exactly. So that's what I was dealing with. I look at it completely differently now. Thankfully, I'm over the hump. I got past that. It was like, oh, okay, that's just the way it is. But it's totally fine. Like I get it. And, I know what I've done. So, I mean, that's all that matters.
Yeah. And you're right. Knows. Like and you're right. We do look at things a little bit differently, because I am a major cinephile, and I do get excited if I see one or two actors that I see are going to be working together that I haven't seen working together before. Like you mentioned, Ryan Reynolds, Octavia Spencer, and Will Ferrell. Like that movie Spirited, that I'm sure that's what they were promoting, just came out today, and I can't wait to watch it, because I love all three of those people, and I want to see them together.
And even Ryan Reynolds was talking about how excited he was to finally get to work with Will Ferrell. Mm-hmm. Like, Ryan Reynolds is a massive, one of the biggest movie stars right now in the world, and certainly one of the biggest producers and creative forces. And he's like, "Man, it's been my lifelong dream to work with Will Ferrell." So it keeps happening. It never stops, this like discovery and doors opening into other things. You just never know, So I've taken a different approach to all that. Of course, I love all the fans and the followers. I think, again, you're lucky in this business if you create one thing like a Geoff Peterson. That's amazing to me. But that doesn't mean that that's it. And I think that's kind of sort of people back home in my hometown of Cleveland. I always joke that their catchphrase is, "Well, hey, if you do nothing else, at least you did that." And that's like, well, yeah, I mean, but I want to do other things, right? But if you never do, so the thinking there is like, you probably won't, but that's not, you can have both. And I'm so happy. I mean, I really, in the last couple of years, like, so many people have reached out and shared their stories about the Late Late Show and Geoff. And I know people that we want you guys to get back on the air. I don't know that would ever happen in the current climate. I couldn't see our show. Well, it's certainly not on network TV. I mean, it would be something interesting on Netflix or something like that. But I don't think it would be the same. I think there was something about late night on CBS on network TV where you kind of happened upon our show. I think it'd be different.
It was kind of like lightning in a bottle corked. And then now that the cork's been pulled, you probably wouldn't capture that same lightning again if you tried.
Yeah, if we hung out and bantered. I mean, he had a Sirius XM show for a brief moment, and I went on that a bunch of times, and we had a lot of laughs, and but it's nice to be on the other side of it now. It's nice to look at it in a different way. I never hated Geoff. I was never against any of that. I think it's that thing of like, I want everyone to know me for this other stuff. But now it's like, that's all about desperation and ego. I think I see a lot of younger performers too, that like, they're constantly putting stuff out there and they're like, hey guys, check out this video and that video. And I just don't do that much anymore. That's why people think I've either quit or died. They're like, are you still around? And I'm like, yeah, I'm very comfortably working on stuff. Maybe you'll never hear of it. It's like George Lucas. I'm working on very small films. They're so small that even I can't see them. They're very tiny. I have a very tiny crew. Actually, remember Willow? I used to hire. We talk about equality. Talk about representation. I hired a bunch of little people. Now I've hired people that are about 2 inches tall, so I can't even see them, and they're making my films. They've shot 3 of these films, and I physically can't see them because the screens are like that small. So. But that's what I'm doing. I'm like over here making films. I'm working on this crazy project that is a director's cut of monster movies I made in junior high, which is like lately one of the most creatively satisfying things ever. I'm getting my whole library of public access tapes and movies I made in high school. I'm getting them all into hard drives finally, and like restoring those for friends.
I'm into
trying
that.
to make, you know what I mean? So as I go further that way, I start to meet people in that world. There's an event tonight for Severin Films, the company I mentioned earlier that puts out great horror movies and cult films. And I'm going to go there and talk to them about helping distribute a film. I won't say the title yet, but there was a certain filmmaker, a guy who came by my house to see my Halloween display. And this guy walked up and he said, "Oh, are you Josh?" I said, "Yeah." And I kept looking at the guy and I was like, "This guy looks really familiar." And he's like, "Yeah, I saw on the Nextdoor app, that's like a neighborhood app, and somebody promoted the Halloween display." He said, "I saw on the neighborhood app your Halloween display. I thought I'd come by and check it out." Well, anyway, the guy was wearing this T-shirt that had this logo on it, and the logo was from a movie that I loved growing up. I don't want to say the title yet because we're trying to figure out how to get this thing, distributed or whatever may happen. But I was like, "Wait a minute, are you so-and-so?" And he's like, "Well, yes, I am." And I'm like, "Oh my God." This guy to me is like a cult hero. This guy's like one of the greats, certainly one of the great stop motion animators of all time.
Okay.
And I went into my office here and I grabbed the VHS copy of this movie and he autographed, and I said, "Is this movie gotten a proper release?" And he said, "Well, no." And so he told me the whole story. And so anyway, I contacted these guys and I go, "Guys, I just met so-and-so at my house. We got to figure out so I'm going to go there tonight." But my point is, I didn't know that I would ever meet that guy. And because I met him, now it's led to these conversations about possibly finding, the only remaining prints of this film, restoring them and giving the guy the credit that he's due. And then I thought, no, this is great because this is what I've wanted. I want to be a producer. I want to be someone who makes these kind of films. I want to be someone who's facilitating it. Because you can see behind me, I love it so much. I have such a passion for it. And so that's exciting to me, man. It's exciting to do that and to make my first film, hopefully next year, shoot my first film that I would direct. And that stuff's exciting to me. But I can also maybe do voices on set, maybe narrate. Well, Josh began to direct the crew as Morgan Freeman. It took us 6 years to make the movie because I talk so damn slow. It feels good. It does feel good to do that, boys.
Do you know what I would really love to see you do? And like just hearing your passion for horror and knowing that you want to kind of come out and host and things like that, I would love to see you do something along the lines of like a Joe Bob Briggs kind of series where like you are the one introducing the horror movie and giving the little tidbits about it and then playing the movie.
That is one of the things that's on the docket. I
think you'd be so
pilot.
great at that.
I think so, because having hosted my own horror show, years ago, those tapes are great. And maybe I'll release some edited versions of that from the 90s. Schlock Theater. I was this guy, Lou Schlock, and I had a cable-controlled puppet on my shoulder. This is, before the Late Late Show, I was my own sidekick. I was puppeteering my own sidekick, and I was the host. And so I love that stuff. And then I did my TV pilot a couple years ago, which is like a mix of like Mr. Rogers and the Dean Martin Show in outer space. And we weren't able to sell it, but that did open doors to other things. It opened a door to an SNL audition. It opened a door to a meeting with some other folks, which was amazing. And but I always loved the characters in that show, like Gary the Ogre, and there was a couple other characters in there. So I thought, what if we take these guys and put them in like a kind of a horror movie show, but it would be me talking to myself as all these characters. So that's one of the things that I've definitely, started working on or am in the middle of working on. And the other thing is the return of Reverend Apostle BG, who's no longer a reverend. He's a philosopher, an explorer, and a prophet. And he's more of a snake oil salesman type character. And so people really love that. The people that love that character. Look, if you have 20 people that really love what you're doing, those are like really cool people that get it. And that's all you should be worried about. I don't want to be famous. I don't care. I don't need 50 billion fans. I used to be, that was like, where are the numbers? My numbers are low. It's all bullshit. If you have like a dedicated following of people, and if you really do this stuff genuinely because you want to, and because it is your passion and because it's exciting for you, man, people will find you. They will. And
that's the attitude I take towards podcasting as well, is that like I take the same attitude for this as I would if it's 5 people listening or 5,000 people listening.
Right.
Like, I mean, I've been lucky enough that I do have a nice following and I do have a good amount of listeners, but like you, I don't do this to become like a world famous podcaster or anything like that. If I did, the only reason I would enjoy it is for advertisers to help me pay my bills, like not get rich, but just pay my bills. That, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's the goal. The goal for me is to get to a point where I have enough like FU money where I could finally go live and do the material the way I want to do it. Not to be offensive on purpose. That's not what I'm talking about, but just to feel free as a performer and not feel like, someone's going to get offended and I'm going to lose my job, because that's kind of what it was for the last couple of years. And again, this is not about being able to say certain words or being offensive on purpose. That is not what we're talking about here. It's just to have that artistic freedom. And if somebody gets upset about something, they can just go be upset. And so I'm going to get to that point where then I can do my own shows like on my website and not be beholden to other platforms like Facebook or Twitter. I don't know, Twitter is still around. I don't know. Everyone seems to think it's going to go away.
By the time this posts, it probably won't be. And this will probably post tomorrow.
Well, I always joke, Twitter never mattered to my followers because half of my fan base still uses flip phones and the other half has passed away. I'm kidding. You guys are great. Come on, man. Well, the half that passed away don't know. So
that's true. That's true. Yeah. Josh, where can people find you online?
Well, not on Twitter. No,
I'm not there either, so it doesn't matter.
I really love Instagram. Instagram for me, just for artists and creatively, it's just very laid back. You can find me on Instagram, JRT Show, or if you still use websites, which I think those are still around, you can just go to my website, which is the JRT Show, THEJRTshow.com, and then all my socials are right there. And yeah, man, and check out my YouTube channel as well. There's some, you can watch the pilot. Now I call it a comedy special. Very proud of that. But there's other stuff that you may have missed And I only get frustrated for the fans because they miss out on this stuff just because they can't see it. The algorithms on these sites, they make it like, especially Facebook, I post so many things and everyone's like, where you been? I haven't seen a post from you in 20 years. And I'm like, well, I just posted yesterday. So there's a lot of podcast appearances that I've done that I'm really proud of. This, of course, being the number one podcast.
Look, you mentioned that other one, and I know that's your number one. It's okay. I'm
no, this is great.
Number two.
Well, I say that was number one because that was the one that I think where I was finally just myself. That was like an amazing thing without being
it broke the cycle.
It broke the cycle, and ironically, not a lot of people saw that one. I think it was that there was like, guys, check it out, an interview with me as myself, not as Geoff Peterson, and Craig isn't there, and people go, I don't know. No, that's not true. That's not true. But it's all good. I mean, so I would say also check out Inside Job. There's a great show on Netflix from the creators of Gravity Falls. I do a bunch of voices on that show. Really cool show, man, about the people who run the shadow government. And part 2 of season 1 just debuted today on Netflix. So check it out. And all the Audible stuff. There's a lot. Just Google it. You guys will be fine.
Yeah. I know. I liked seeing you pop up. I know the show didn't last very long, but I liked seeing you pop up on, what was it, Angel from Hell?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
With Jane Lynch.
That was wild. Angel from Hell was a CBS show, ironically. And it came out like I think about a year after the Late Late Show ended. So that was kind of amazing because I was on there. I was doing Morgan Freeman. I was like an improv performer who followed one of those people around. I don't remember who on the show, but narrating their life as Morgan Freeman. So, man, I was sweating bullets when I did that because, now you be careful what you ask for, folks, because I'm like, I want to be on camera. I want to be on like sitcoms and movies. And there I am on set. And it's like, wow, this is a whole different experience, man. You got to, stay on your mark and, like a camera. Okay, we're going to roll. All right, ready. And then like they ring a bell. Everybody has to keep quiet. And I'm like, wait, do I look this way or where do I? But it all worked out, man. And then the show got canceled. So, in fact, it was funny. It was actually really funny because my episode didn't air. I think eventually it did, but I think it was like episode 5 or something. And then the show got canceled like just before my episode.
Yeah.
So, but it became a running gag. Like that was my bit for a while. That was, and I didn't want to, on my bio, it says posthumous award winner.
Award winner.
Right. Which I think is funny.
Laugh. Yeah.
It's funny now, but I think when I wrote it at the time, I was like, yeah, nobody's going to recognize me till I'm dead. Anyway, it doesn't even matter. I'm not that guy anymore, but, it is a very funny line because it's just like wink, wink,
Yeah.
Because it's all bullshit. Actually, Twitter's bullshit too. I mean, if Twitter goes away, I know people are really upset. They're having eulogies. They're tweeting to each other going, well, I just want to let you guys know I'm going to remember you. And I made so many good friends. I'm like, man, I had a lot of people give me bullshit on Twitter. And some of you guys are cool, but you know what? I'm not going to lose sleep at night if it's gone. I don't know.
It's toxic. It's so toxic.
And on one hand, it's good because look, I did raise the money to finish my pilot because of Twitter and other platforms, right? I was able to have that campaign and everyone came through. That was the positive thing I think that happened. But outside of that, I don't really need strangers assessing my work all day long or saying things. It could take used to be like just one comment. Someone would be like, yeah, liked you better when you were behind the wall or whatever it was. That would just stay with you all day long. Yeah. You'd be like, fuck, I shouldn't have looked at my Twitter, man. But it is good. I mean, it's been good for a lot of people. I get it. But the eulogizing, I mean, maybe save that for, I don't know, your cat or, maybe a human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Josh, this has been absolutely great. I've loved having you on. I'm so glad I finally had the opportunity to have this conversation with you. And
yeah, me too, man.
My final question, will you come back?
I will come back. Yeah, I was trying to keep it positive. So hopefully it was a positive discussion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I kept making it clear that I don't feel these ways anymore. It's all love. I mean, I love all this stuff, but yes, man, I want to come back and talk about movies and do the top 5, top 6, top 10, top 12.
For sure. I mean, and if nothing else, I have to have you back on to talk about Austrian Death Machine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Oh my God.
We didn't even get to that topic.
Man, there's a lot that happened there with Austrian Death Machine. So many different things.
But Josh, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast. To everybody else out there that's listening or watching the video, make sure you check out Josh on socials, JRT Show on Instagram, the JRT Show for his website to get links to his YouTube page and everything else. Of course, this podcast, wilhelmpodcast.com. Wilhelm Podcast on Instagram and Facebook.com/Wilhelm Podcast. Give me likes if you haven't already. But one more time, Josh, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Ben.